Right. Okay. Works for me.
Listen, I'll have it here. That way you can always see.
No, down here. I just want to know.
Because I would just put it here now. It's facing you. You can see it head on.
Oh, don't worry about it. You sure? I'm going to focus on the conversation. Oh. So, if anything, what I'll do is hopefully the red light goes on. We'll see if it turns out. All right. So, I don't know what number the conversation is. I'll number it afterwards.
Sure.
And this is Macneal, Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And how I've been starting these little conversations and what I've learned since the last call or last conversation. I don't even want to call it conversation. Sure. So I tried different softwares.
Mm-hmm.
The software I'm using is Riverside for the podcasting, and I'm using CapCut and both premium ones that you're paid for, so I can edit the video.
Right.
This one is going to teach me how to hopefully do multiple streams of video and how to overlap them. I have no idea what.
So multiple angles into one.
Yes, and my goal is to make it. I want to approach this, and the boundaries I'm sitting on myself is I don't want to make it expensive. It's quick.
Right.
So I want to use a 360 camera.
Yep.
One camera that I can export 2 files, your picture and my picture.
Yep. Okay.
And old cell phone for maybe a B-roll to cut out to, and I'm making it harder on myself just so I can figure out how to do it.
It sounds like it's going
to be fun. Okay. And I have tried different software. I went back to Riverside because it's just more user-friendly. And I figure nobody watches this, but if somebody does watch it, they can follow along and learn as I go. And next layer after that is going to be how to figure out how to use AI to my advantage when it comes to hosting these things. All right. And that's just something I want to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. So figure out how to use AI. It's the main topic everybody talks about online. And it might be just in the echo chamber I'm in. Okay.
I don't think it's an echo chamber. I think that a lot of people are figuring out real fast that a lot of work that we do individually can be done in 1/8 of the time if you know how to use AI.
Yeah, and the idea is I want to, and so again, there's music in the background, so that's another thing I'm going to figure out how to filter things out. No, not filter.
Oh, feel free to let it play.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Like this is something so I can learn. Oh, okay. Here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not monetizing, so whatever plays can play. So, outside of that, I wanted to go over because I didn't realize you knew me 5 years ago because I thought we only knew each other 3 years.
No, it's before that.
Yeah, and recently you did a little speech presentation at Fuck Up Nights.
Yep.
That
was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I got to know a lot more about you in that regard, and going through a hard time and coming out of it. And outside of all that, because like I don't want to make that anybody's identity, you're a good public speaker. Oh, that's really it. Like you're a good public speaker. You said it very smoothly. You had no awkward pauses really, and you even pushed through when you got a little emotional. And it was just really cool to see because I knew some things, I didn't know a lot of the things, and it was cool that you invited me for that. So I want to say thank you for that. At that event, we met some other people that did some cool things as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And don't remember her name. The one lady that does the photograph.
Yep. 1 second.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
Melanie Wong.
There you go. Melanie Wong. And there was the bookstore lady. And I'm going to miss everything. So,
I remember the guy, Guy's Peter.
Guy's Peter. And he's doing a payment application so that it's not like owned by Uber.
That's right.
So it's more independent. Right? And that was really cool. I think it was a cool statement.
Let me get your names for you. I'll tell you them right now. 1 second.
But yeah, this last week, we went to 2 things, a lot of speeches. It's fun to see.
I don't know that they enjoy a lot of speeches, but
Yeah.
it definitely was a good week for the community.
Oh,
Allison was who owned the bookstore.
yes. She was very fun when she spoke. She was very excited.
Very much so.
Yeah, but it was good. You could feel the excitement.
It was all bottled up. She's trying to get it all out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you been doing this week?
This week has been busy. This week is a continuation of last week. We got a lot of stuff going on at the corporate level, which I won't get into because that's MBA, of course.
Yeah.
But from a personal perspective, a lot of the stuff I'm involved with is just blowing up. So I'll give you a good example. This Saturday coming, we have an event in this same space, at the big space at the back.
Yeah.
which is a community event. You're welcome to come. Starts at
What day?
4, Saturday 29th.
That's this weekend?
Yep, this weekend.
Okay.
Starts at 4, ends around 7.
Okay.
But it's going to be, the bar will be relatively open.
Okay.
So you're welcome to join me from 4. So we're doing that. That's a big time event for seniors project on that charity.
Nice. What's the name of the charity?
Donald Moore Community Service.
Donald.
More Community Service.
Okay.
And so I've been on that board for the better part of 6 years. I've been the leader of the organization. So that's been interesting. In my private practice, it's been fun. And, my clients and I are beginning to hit our cadence.
Yeah.
Because I operate at the senior executive level with those funds. It's fun because I get to work hard, but not do the grunt work. That's all. So there's Donald Moore, which is really education development at the community. I sit on the board of the Hamilton Fringe Theatre Company.
Yeah.
And so, as you know, that is about.
Oh, is that part of the French Festival?
Yeah. So the Fringe Festival is a program that the Fringe Theatre Company.
You lived in Scotland, right? Ish.
Travel. Spend.
I went to Scotland and I actually saw the French Festival there.
That's what it started.
Yeah, that's where it started. That thing's fun.
Yes.
It is just stand-up comedy, skits, plays, and everything like that. But the stand-up comedy is wild.
It is very well.
Yeah.
What they talk about there is no holes barred.
Yeah. Or like some words that are swear words here.
Yes.
Are not swear words.
It's just normal talk.
Normal talk. It's endearing.
So it's a 51 townhouse complex for gear technical company that we run on behalf of the city of Hamilton. So we do that. So I sit on that board as the treasurer. So that's a lot of busy work as well. Outside of that, I'm missing what I sit on my Rotary Club's board until the end of June of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been incoming president, past president, and then next year I think I'm going to chair the board of the Charitable Trust Corporation, which is the board that runs all the money that comes into the organization.
Okay. This is just for me, my knowledge. What is a Rotary Club?
Mm-hmm. The original format of Rotary was the coming together of business people, 1 or 2 people only from each sector.
And by sector, you mean
professional.
I want to dumb it down.
Professional.
Okay.
So, 1 corporate lawyer, 1 family lawyer, 1 accountant.
It's similar to BNI?
Similar, but we don't go over the idea of passing business, and there is no requirement to attend every week today in the original format. And essentially, we just raise money for the community.
Yeah.
So all of our efforts go into raising money, and we spend all that money back in our community.
Okay.
So that's the goal.
What was the most fun thing that you did that you put the money back in the community?
I don't know if I would use the term fun, but certainly most impactful last year.
Impactful, silly.
Yeah, in my year as president, and we put on a big event here on the right here. 400 people in Rome. We raised $1,000 in that night. We gave 100,000 back to Keaton's House Hospice for the Children's Hospice.
That's the one that just over Sherman?
Yeah, so that is Bob Campbell Hospice up on Milton, and that hospice is building a hospice for children.
You know what? I went to a presentation for them a year ago or 2 years ago. It was at I don't know, it was downtown somewhere. I don't remember the venue. And it was really interesting to see because, like, at work, I've been to a hospital a couple of times.
Yep.
And it's sad, obviously, but not as sad as you think, right? It's actually pretty, I wouldn't say wholesome almost, because they have people around.
Yes.
And sometimes those people, like, they don't have much big family around them, but they have at least staff of people that are there. Segue from that, there's a book called, I'm going to have to remember the name of it. It's a book that the lady that used to work at hospice, and she talks about the 5 lessons she learned from people that are done. And one of the greatest books I've read. It was just a lot of the sayings that you see online. They say that, oh, everything's not about work. All the common things that you think about, just put in perspective with stories from people that are passing. I'll find the name of the book so I can give it to you or send it to you, because that book I found very moving and it's really, really good. One of the few books that, like, I felt helpful when I was going through the PTSD stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just like a different perspective to look at things and a different relationship with, I'm going to say death, or maybe even not death, but how she shared the story about feeling pulled to help people in that circumstance from a young age. It was interesting to hear that because it was from a different angle, but it's like when people do emergency services or army or things like that from a young age, I think there's some overlapping feelings. And it's just interesting that she just did this one different thing, end of life thing, instead of going to run towards danger and save it, but still helpful in the family with the person that's passing away and left positive marks on her, even though they were draining marks. It's very interesting.
Well, one of the things I'd share with you, probably it's the way I live my life, which is we have to live every day like it is our last. That is a cliche.
I think it's pretty safe, sure.
But one of the things that
I was saying, like, I was joking around and somebody else, like, not like your last, but like you have a week left.
so I'll give you the concept.
Yeah.
So the way we did it is it's leadership.
Can you explain, just because I've been talking to my friend Sean on these things about religion?
Sure.
What denomination of Christianity?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Catholic. Okay, so that's what I understand. Okay.
So I'm going to double back on that a second.
Okay.
But going back to, so the first part is when you go on, certainly the church, because I grew up in the Pentecostal church, which is where you go to leadership, and it's a 2-year leadership program.
Okay.
And a lot of it has to do with becoming a leader in the church. Of course, there is history of the Bible, the hermeneutics, etc., where you go through.
When you say hermeneutics,
just essentially the entire encapsulation of the 2 years
okay,
is taking you through how you run the church,
okay,
how you run finance in the church,
okay,
how you're a good leader, how you use your influence to impact people, and then there is a study of the Bible. Also, history of the Bible, what the Bible means today, as living proof of what we read and how we execute.
Okay.
In a nutshell. So that was the 2 years.
Okay.
But my takeaway from all of that, I remember one of our leaders said, life is lived forward and understood backward. And that statement stuck with me for many years,
yes,
even to today. Because the concept is that while people are living, we are too busy living to understand that. Because we live every day as a day in and unto itself.
Yes.
But when you are old enough to understand life, you are generally too old to be bothered with the living side, because the days that are left ahead of you are shorter than where you were. And so I started living with the concept that life is lived forward, understood back. Meaning, while I am living, I have to live everything and not be bothered with tomorrow.
Okay.
Because the time I can spend to understand, I don't have much to do.
Yeah.
And so why bother understanding why things go wrong?
Yeah.
When I can just be full into the experience of what I'm dealing with now. Dr. Joe Menzinga has this concept of experiential, I think it's experiential living, where you live in a place of relative quiet.
Yeah.
So that when you are not quiet, you can enjoy the not quiet moment. But in many times we have to live with expectation that life is just going to work in favor, so that we can just live fully. Because most people live worried about what is going to happen. If you get away from that, you can actually just live a good life.
Yeah.
The ups and downs, the losses, the wins, because it all equates to net.
Yeah, but to get to that is harder than just that sentence, right?
Of course.
Because
and divorces.
Oh yeah. No. But one thing you were saying about that is like, so when you're young, you're living for the day. When you're older, you're living and looking at the past. Okay. But I would like to add another layer to that, because I think that's a very good statement. But depending on your life experiences, because like people that have been through hard things early tend to have insight that's seen a lot older than true, right? Because I'm not even going to say anything to do with PTSD, but like people that come from like a country that's a little bit more hard, right? They have a different outlook on life, right? Because it's just they had a hard time when they was younger, and they maybe when they come to a place like North America or a different country that's like a little bit more ahead, a bit more peaceful. Not distance. They have the duality they see, and they can really appreciate that at a level that people that grew up in privilege or grew up in a good area just can't, right? So I remember like talking to even like me, like certain things went through with cultural stuff, race things, and whatever. But then people would ask me questions, and I would just say things like they would come across and say like, "Oh, that's so insightful." I'm like, "This is common sense, right?" But then when I talk to somebody that's like from Sudan, or talk to somebody from like, because I worked before, I used to meet people that were refugees, and they would share some stories, and like they're tough life, but they would be very insightful in what they would say, because they might have the worst job in the world, or the worst job to our standards. Because let's go by our standards.
So it's funny you say that, because a lot of people when you move to a country in Canada, people assume that you're running away
Speak up a little bit.
from hardship. People assume that.
Yeah.
People assume that you're running away
Yeah.
from hardship. But my experience was the reverse. So I grew up in a beautiful country called Barbados.
Yeah.
I spent most of my formative years there. Back and forth, different countries, working, blah, 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 in the Caribbean. So I traveled a lot.
And you came to snow.
And I came to, but one of the things I share with people is that while I don't consider myself in any way, shape, or form wealthy there, I live a good life where I live every single day. When we moved to Canada, we came here for the mindset that at that time we had two daughters and we wanted them to grow up in a bigger environment.
Yeah.
And to grow, experience a big environment from young. So they grew up in it, not got thrusted into it because they came to university.
Yeah.
I expected when I moved to this country.
Yeah.
Because I had come from working in an environment where I knew enough people to get by.
Yeah.
If I had just stayed where I was today, probably would have been the chief operating officer of a large company.
Yeah.
Living a life.
So you mean down in Barbados?
In Barbados.
Okay.
When I came here, I had to restart.
Yeah.
Because it did not matter my experience, my education, my background. None of that.
None of that, yeah.
And so
I mean, my parents when they came too, so
when I moved here, 2014, probably to, I would argue up until very recently, maybe 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Really was down. Now, were there some good times? I had some peaks in there where I did well. I enjoyed life. But if I think about the 10, almost 11 years I've lived here, if I had just stayed in place, where my life would have been, in my opinion, would have been further.
Yep.
But I don't spend time thinking about that. And I share that as an experience to say that for many people, people think that when you're an immigrant, you're running away from bad. No, I left what people want to go to. I left a calm, stable, beautiful environment.
Another way to look at it, just because people here travel for fun and curiosity doesn't mean people in other places don't do the same.
Well,
right? Because I know family in India and they moved to like Europe, they moved to Dubai, UAE area, and they just travel for fun. They go here, there, whatever, right? And a lot of people move for that reason too. A lot of people they always say like one of the easiest ways to change your life to change your geography.
100%.
But at the same time, when you say that you could have been further ahead over there, that's if you're dead right now.
That's if
you're dead right now. The story ends right now.
True.
Right? So, like, it's not over until it's over, and over is dead, right? So,
I have a lot of time left to do
but then I talk to you maybe 2 years from now, you're like, oh, I'm way further ahead than I would have stayed there, right? So, you never know. Right?
Economies of scale say that the larger the environment, the larger the opportunity. There's no doubt in my mind in a 40 million plus person country.
Yep.
I can do in my late 30s, early 40s, in catch-up years, by far more here than I could probably do there.
Yeah, you have that like insight. I was born here, so I don't have that insight of the difference, right? Like I only hear stories like my mom would always say about India, or even other people have talked about India because the population is so big. If you can sell, like, there's billions there, right? So if you put any idea out there and sell $1 to 1 million people, you have $1 million. Just with and the idea doesn't have to be profound, it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be an idea. Then you're willing to do it. That's it. And now with the internet, with like being able to just ship things wherever you want, like it's a whole different game.
Well, it's interesting because with my wife, my current wife is from Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
And I would argue that a lot of people have a different concept. Oh, yeah, a lot of people have this concept.
Yeah.
That Europe is this big, fast, developed place.
Yeah.
No, it's just population centers.
Yeah.
So if you go to Düsseldorf, wherever in Germany, you go to parts of Eastern Europe, Hungary, Budapest, you go to these big places, Bratislava, you go to Poland. It's the population centers that are big, vast, and developed.
Yeah.
But if you go just 100 kilometers outside your population center, there's nothing going on as far as the eye can see. And so I remember spending a bunch of time there a few summers ago when our last set of kids were born, or twins were born there. I'm thinking, my God, do we ever get this wrong when we live in a small environment? Because you hear these big countries and think of how well everybody must be doing.
Yeah.
No, there are some people who aren't doing very well where I come from that are doing by far better than some of the people I saw.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is perspective.
That's interesting. Because like even here, so I remember learning in school or was in college how even in Canada such a discrepancy.
Right.
Where in the city centers people are doing really, really well. But you go out to the countryside, especially on the reserves, they consider it like the fourth world country.
I would
Not just third world, because you're living in a first world country as a third world.
Yep.
Which, again, that was eye opening that they have these words to define it already in place. But that's everywhere, right? So, if you have you seen on like Instagram or like on social media where they show the big disparage of rich and not rich by picture, like overhead pictures.
Yes.
Yeah, which is very interesting because they have like a wall or like a street sometimes, and like this is the rich and this is just all the people that
Lush and green,
yeah
desolate environment.
yeah, and they just have like the corrugated metal roofs and everything. So
And it's a different one.
yeah, and again, people forget over here like you get welfare and stuff. In India, there's like not really, I don't think there's any welfare, and there's people that have like messed up feet, messed up whatever, and they're still innovative enough to go out and try to make money.
Because if you don't have a support system, you will find you built.
Exactly. And it'll be interesting to see happen in like India and other countries in Africa as well with the internet there and like where other places have to build everything. Things are progressing really fast. Obviously, imagine how much faster it's going to progress in those places with internet already available. It is now coming there, right? So, I also before we go on. So one thing that I learned, which I thought was very interesting, because they also talk about India has a lot of garbage around. And somebody explained to me was before modern conveniences of plastic and things like that, everything was wrapped in biodegradable things, like leaves and whatnot.
Yep.
So they were taught and learned, you're done eating, you throw on the ground because they're just lethal doses. So the same thinking happened when everything changed, but nobody was taught anything different.
That's right.
And then the population is so big, they can't get the message out. So that was very interesting to me. I did not know that. Like, I understand. I went there, man, this is kind of dirty. But they come from a time when everything, all your food, everything was wrapped in something like in banana leaves or whatever, wrapped in something biodegradable. So you just toss it.
But that is situational psychology.
Yeah.
And so the problem is that worked well, let's say, for the first
thousands
of years.
Yeah.
But the last 200 years, probably a bad idea.
Horrible idea. But again, if you think about it, it's a horrible idea with things that were created that not good for the environment. So it's interesting that obviously you got to learn from both. But it's just very interesting, like, oh, that makes sense. And then things will change, obviously, over time as technology progresses. So, yeah, very.
I would argue products, when you get into the products and the materials that we use, that is a study in my opinion. That technological advances and the advancements of humans always require us to do some of the wrong things first before we do the wrong things.
100%.
So
You
you
got to
do
make,
the right things out.
like they said at Facebook, you got to make mistakes fast.
Yes.
Right? So same thing with when you put technology out. This made a small segment of the population of everything good because they know that you recycle this, you do this. But everybody else gets screwed over and you learn from the mistakes there, then you come back. Right? Because like you can't think of everything.
And you're not supposed to. That's not the way.
Kind of like this right now.
Yes.
We don't even know if the sound's going to work.
Well, we can find out later. But I do want to go back because you asked me this question before.
Yes.
Well, I don't know that I find it very interesting. I grew up, my grandmother was 100, which is an offshoot.
Okay.
Because the king wanted to marry another wife and the pope didn't want. That's where I
okay.
My mother was Seventh-day Adventist for many years. I went to both. I went to church some Saturdays and some Sundays. My grandmother, then that was her hobby as an adult. I then went back to the church in my teenage years with, I think my then wife was a girlfriend. We got pregnant by it. And my first child was 18 years old. Went to get her christened.
Yep.
And then fell in love with the community.
Yep.
And just rolled forward to that story. I told her that anything. Church leadership level school.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I would say, being as a Catholic, I became Catholic as an adult, having had a phenomenal experience in my very mid to early childhood, being invited to a Catholic church one Saturday night. Sometimes you watch movies and you see people have these experiences that are like altering. Well, mine was the embrace of the people. It was a phenomenal Catholic church, and it's so open. And I just walked in. And it was the greeting. It was the greeting of the people. It was the greeting of the priests. It was the conversation that happened when it was finished. And so, what essentially happened is that the priest of that day just greeted me at the door and said, "It's good to meet you. I see more of you." I never thought that being. And so I just started going back on an ongoing basis. And I knew after a while that this is where I want.
Yeah.
And so I just
Did you like? So was it the religion or the community? That you
it
like?
was the community
Yeah,
founded in the religion.
yeah. Because you grew up in a like not. I'm not saying you grew up in the but you grew up with maybe unspoken rules of the culture.
I grew up with very spoken rules.
Very spoken rules. There you go.
There were rules there, the way you behaved, the way you dressed, the way you operated, the way you dealt with your seniors.
Yeah,
Those rules were blatant.
I get it. I get it. So it can. I always find it interesting because like Catholic religion, very Roman, right from Europe, and you're in Barbados, the black community.
Yeah. 9% of the population, I think, is
How did, from your knowledge, was there anything altered or how it was presented or how, like, have you been to Catholic churches here and noticed the big difference?
no. So in the sense that I think the Catholic religion has done something well with basic nuances. Obviously, in the Caribbean, the way we speak to each other, the music
Yeah.
that we sing at church has more of a melody, whereas
Yeah, yeah.
here it's kind of straight line.
Yes.
But Catholicism the world over behaves in a very dramatic way. The homily on Saturday evening is really short across the world.
And homily means?
Homily is short sermon,
Okay.
sermon that happens Saturday evening. So I prefer to go to church on Wednesday morning and Saturday evening.
Okay.
I'm not a lover of Sunday mornings.
Okay.
And so what I found is that it's been very similar because rite and ritual comes from the same book, from the same thought process. And most of the priests are all going to be taught in the same space. And then they're dispersed to different parts of the world. And so like you will find here that